Hey everybody, I'm the Glamp Man. I've been on the Airbnb platform for 13 years. I'm a super host. I also have the coveted guest favorite status, and I've hosted over 1,000 couples during the last 4 seasons. Now, if you're on the fence about if you're going to start a glamping business this year, well, I'm here to give you some advice. It's 2024, and this is what I would do right now today if I was going to start from scratch. So let's go through the list.
Number one, start your social media presence. That's right, everybody. Before you even break ground on your glamp ground or even have a structure or anything like that, you're going to want to start your social media presence. And this doesn't mean just posting on your own personal Facebook page what you plan to do or pictures of your building going up or when it's finished. Actually, I recommend staying away from your personal Facebook page because that can just lead to the type of people seeing what you're doing who you may not actually want them to see what you're doing, including neighbors, friends, people in your local community who might have an issue with what you're doing and just be poking their business in your business, calling the town board, things like this. So stay away from your personal Facebook page. Instead, build a business Facebook page for your glamp ground or your glamping structure. And second, do it on at least 2 other platforms. For example, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. 2 out of these 3 would be sufficient to get a decent amount of social media presence. And if you're worried in the beginning, like, well, what am I supposed to be doing with this? This is the first step. Glamp Man, I don't have any content yet. Well, yes, you will. Your main content when you start is going to be the announcement of what you plan to do, the announcement of you starting a glamping business, and then you will document the process of you building the buildings, figuring things out along the way. You'll never know how much you can use this later on. In the best case scenario, if you become a YouTuber as well, in terms of offering your experience building a glamping business, you have the material. But there could be other ways you're going to use that also for advertising, and just it's just nice to have. It's like a diary of what you are going to do. Number two, build your structure and focus on the outdoor space. I recommend building your first structure very similar to my structure number 2, which I call the Buck and Glamp Palace. This was a 10-foot by 14-foot structure. It wasn't very tall. I think it only comes in at maybe 7.5 feet at the tallest point, and maybe 6 feet at its lowest point. The reason 140 square foot cabin is going to be an ideal first building structure is because in most states you would not need a building permit for something this size. This is like considered a shed, where you don't need a building permit unless it's something greater than that square footage. But of course, don't quote me on it. All states and counties have different numbers as far as what they consider. But generally speaking, if you're building something like in my county state of New York, 144 square feet or less, then you're good with this part. So I did mine at 140, 10 by 14. Second, the outdoor space. This is where you can actually spend a little bit more, not more effort than your cabin, but an equal amount of effort, because remember, we're talking about glamping, and that's about getting to the great outdoors and being outside and being in the forest setting and seeing the stars and everything else. So make your outdoor setting as appealing as you can. And let me give you some things you can focus on. One, if you can, I would definitely have some kind of a fire pit. In my glamp ground, I don't allow real fires, because it's just a big hazard where I am on a mountaintop, lots of wind, just not a good idea for me. But if you're like near a body of water, if you're in a place that isn't crazy windy like where I am, I would definitely go for that as one of the main amenities. If you can't do a real fire pit, think about those propane powered fire pits that look really nice. They're like big stone. They kind of look like little chimneys made out of stone, and those can give you almost the same ambiance as a real fire pit. Two, some kind of hammock, some kind of swing, some kind of hammock that people can relax in. It's not an expensive amenity, but it sure does look great on those Instagram pictures. The outdoor furniture. Make sure you have some nice outdoor furniture, whether that be simple lounge chairs that recline, but outdoor, specifically for outdoor, because they're going to be in the elements, or a traditional picnic table set, wood picnic table, wood benches, which is actually a pretty good thing as opposed to the modern, newer plastic things that can blow away. As you may hear, I'm in a very windy location, so that's always something I think about when it comes to my outdoor space. Like another thing I can't provide is outdoor umbrellas, the big umbrellas that go over picnic tables, because I've just had too many situations where they've just blown off and hit the building or something worse. So, but again, if you're not in a windy space, a true picnic umbrella to provide shade if there's no other shade available, that's also a nice thing. And even smaller things, like, for example, a bird feeder or a hummingbird feeder, anything that would, bring nature a little bit close to nature that we want, right? That is, bring nature a little bit closer to the people, to the guests, to the location of their glamp site. It's just nice touches like that. And as part of this, I should have mentioned this maybe in the beginning, but when you are going to build your structure, you need to focus on what theme. You should really have some kind of unique theme. Airbnb platform, we all know now that they're pushing the OMG categories, the unique things, the things that are hard to duplicate, whether they're A-frames or domes or houses on wheels or UFOs or a big potato in the potato fields of Idaho. I think you get the idea. But believe it or not, kind of the stranger the theme or the weirder it is, the more eyeballs you're going to attract, and therefore more bookings. So, you don't have to go crazy. Like I said, if you're going to go with my recommended structure, like that 10 by 14, a simple square cabin, just pick a theme that you can kind of, deck it out with. Whether it's, I'll give you some, easy examples. If you're going to go with some animal theme, like for example, I have the fox A-frame, decorate the inside with things related to a fox, a nice painting of a fox, coffee mugs or other things that, have foxes on them. It can be with any animal, bear, deer, whatever it might be, but pick one and go with it. Or a Wild West theme, especially if you're going to be building your glam site out in the Midwest or the Western. Go with a cowboy theme, go with a Wild West theme. And like I mentioned, there's the outer space. If you're good with metal, if you can make your building look a little bit funky, like a UFO in some way, even if it's just putting a lot of sheet metal or lots of glass on it and a weird shape, go for it. One example I can give you, my most recent structure was a tiny house on wheels, and I decided to go with a Dr. Seuss inspired theme, and I made it like a Cat in the Hat house, and complete with photos and pictures of the cat inside and funny things that you would see from the storybook inside the house. So that's where I'm going from here on out. Just personally, I'm going to be making any other structures that I'm making in the near future is going to have some really funky, fun kind of theme. All right, number 3, get your Airbnb listing ready. Start it. Along with that, your Verbo listing. Start it. I know your building may not even be ready yet, but start the process. There's a lot of things, a lot of details that should be filled out as far as the amenities you plan to offer. Put some temporary pictures there in the beginning. And also, don't stop there. Also, I'm using now a free site. It's called Houfy, Houfy. I'll put a link in the description. This is a site that you can direct traffic to. They don't charge hardly anything, maybe like $5 to join, and you can get your listings without them charging you a service fee and your guests a service fee. When you have your listing, the Airbnb, the Verbo, actually Houfy, you can just import that from your Airbnb listing when it's ready. So it's not something you have to redo. When you get to the point of Airbnb, your rules and regulations, some important things to consider, even before you start this whole process is you got to have an idea who your main clientele is going to be. Is it going to be young adults? Is it going to be an older crowd? Is it going to be families? Is it going to be couples? Is it going to be people with pets? Is it going to be people with kids? And once you have that idea, then focus your energy and your glam site to be something that will cater to that group or groups in a very conscious way. For example, if you can allow pets at your glam site, that is a really big help. You'll get a lot more bookings than without, and there really isn't many downsides to it. It's not like people bringing in dogs to your home and can pee on the carpet or rip some furniture up, right? It's a glamping cabin. It's made to be. It's rough on the edges. That's the way it's supposed to be, with some luxury, of course. And second, if you can allow kids, if that's something that your glam site would be able to, if you're comfortable with that, because there is a bit more risk involved, I think, with having young children on your property and your glam ground. But if you can, that's almost maybe not as high on the pole as the pets. But certainly, if you can't allow pets for whatever reason, then try to allow kids. But if I had to choose one or the other, I would allow pets first and maybe kids as a secondary one. Number 4, do not rely on Airbnb to bring you your business. That's right. I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but Airbnb is not necessarily your best friend in these modern times, uh, in the last couple of years, not like the olden days. So, but that's really important to keep in mind. And I'm dead serious when I say this. In the last 2 years, my business, the traffic that Airbnb, the bookings that they were able to provide me dropped 50%. 2023, I was down 50% of what Airbnb provided me in terms of guests from just 2 years earlier than that. And we can talk about all the reasons, but we're not going to do it in this video. In the meantime, what I want to stress is that in addition to Airbnb and Verbo, there's not even a question of whether or not you're going to do that as a secondary listing. You are. And then it's kind of up to you. But here's a couple tips that I would recommend. One, try to do some local outreach in your community, that other businesses that you can work with to perhaps promote your glam ground, and while maybe promoting their business as well. Easy stuff like local eateries, local restaurants, local attractions. Maybe there's a swimming pool near you or some other sports type facility. Be prepared to do paid advertising. Facebook advertising, I keep hearing over and over again, is a big help in bringing in bookings that Airbnb just isn't going to fulfill like they used to do 100%. So Facebook ads. Last and not least in this category, number 4 is be prepared to do paid advertising. And I'm going to be recommending Facebook ads. In addition to that is your social media. Your social media is just as important as your Airbnb listing and as your Facebook advertisements. Your social media is your free platform to get the word out and grow your business organically. Number 5, join local Airbnb groups. Now, in the Airbnb listing and the Airbnb website, once you become and apply to be a host, you'll see a spot where you can contact your official local Airbnb community group, and these groups will meet in person in your area, maybe a couple times a month. It's a really great resource to make use of, especially if you're a new host and you're new to the space. Everybody's always very friendly, helpful, ready to give advice. It's usually hosted in someone's really nice vacation rental, so you'll get to see like a real house that's currently being rented on Airbnb and Verbo, and the host for that property will be there hosting. The last one I went to was great. He had great food. He was a wonderful host himself, person, and it's just a good thing. So I would go out of your way, especially if you're new to being a host on a short-term rental platform. Number 6, watch, and this goes without saying, watch other YouTubers in this space. If you're into glamping like I am, I'm going to recommend Keep It Tiny. That's my friend Jamie. A lot of Robuilt's early stuff had a lot to do with glamping, And Kai Andrew is also pretty good for this glamping space and outdoor space, even though he does a little mix of everything. And then other YouTubers, probably the biggest name and maybe the most knowledgeable, especially when it comes to Airbnb rules, protocols, inside info. That's going to be Sean Radkidzich, previously known as Airbnb Automated. He's one of the, I'd call him one of the grandfathers of Airbnb YouTubers. He's got incredible information. He puts out a lot of content. Even his free stuff, you'll learn an immense amount of material. I'm going to recommend him. There's also another fella that when I first got involved about 4 or 5 years ago, his name is Richard Fertig. Next Gen Hospitality. Now, all of his newer stuff I don't recommend because he got really, really big, and then he got into like investing in huge properties that just is beyond above our pay grade, right? So, but his early work is really, really good, and I mean like 4, 5, 6 years ago. Some of it might be a little outdated, but he's someone I would definitely check out his older stuff. And if you like podcasts, I'm going to recommend a podcast called Spontaneous. That's my friend Zach. And he puts out a show almost every week. He's probably over 200 episodes by now. That's also, if you can't be in a position to watch something on the YouTube, you can always listen to that as a podcast. Number 7. You are going to do everything involved in this business, especially in the beginning. That means you are going to be the cleaner, the greeter, the guest communicator. You're going to run the listing. You're going to hopefully be living or on site each time you have a guest who shows up. You're going to do it all. You're going to do it all, and you're going to, because that's the number one way, first, to learn what it takes to run the business successful. Number 2, you have everything under your control. You're going to clean it like no one else is going to clean it, and the guests are going to notice that. And then later on, if you get to a point where you're going to be hiring people to pick up the extra weight in these categories, like a cleaner, then you'll know exactly what it is that they need to be doing to keep your reputation as a 5-star cleaned glamp site. So be ready to do a lot of hard work, my friend. You're going to be spending a lot of time on this. Number 8, when you're ready to set up your bathroom setup. Bop. Number 8, when it comes to getting the bathroom situation organized on your glamp ground, I'm going to recommend wholeheartedly to go with a porta potty. That's right, a porta potty that you can rent from a company. They'll bring it to your site. They'll service it, you typically once per week for one generally low price, anywhere between $100 and $150 per month, depending where you are in the country. And that's just going to make a big difference in terms of this situation. Secondly, or secondary, if you can't do that, if it's out of your budget, you can buy a simple camping portable toilet. These are just like plastic little toilet seats, more or less, with some kind of box or bucket underneath it. There's a couple of good ones out there, and I'll put a link in the description to 1 or 2 that I would recommend. One of them I started out using back in 2020, so that will be there. Number 9, I mentioned this earlier, but you need to be the on-site greeter. You're going to welcome every guest. If you're living on the property, that's going to be easy. If it's a property not where you live, you're going to make it your business to be there every time your first guests are arriving. I can't tell you how important and maybe how under evaluated this is in your overall business. And it's just going to help you later on, because when the guests arrive, and if you can greet them, bang, automatically they're putting your face to the property, and there's a human connection. And if you're a good people person, if you're friendly, if you're excited about hosting, they're going to notice that, they're going to feel that, they're going to feel more welcome. And why it also is good, because if there are any problems as their holiday unfolds and you're there to take care of it, even better. And it's just always so less likely, again, even if something is your fault, that they're not going to really give you a bad review if they've met you in person. I've totally found that to be totally true over the past 5 years. Every time I was not on my property or did not was not there to greet a guest, those are the ones when something went wrong, they leave the nastiest, most negative, lowest number reviews. So this is really important. I can't stress it enough. Even maybe before you start this business, you gotta say to yourself, honestly, can I be there to greet all of my guests that first season or first 2 seasons? Because it is a big deal. Number 10, when your site is almost ready to go live, you are going to contact Airbnb and request them to send you a professional photographer. Now, what they will do is they will find one in your area, they will send them, it will cost you nothing up front, and they are all amazing. I've had 2 photographers come out to my glamp ground. They took amazing pictures. And the way it is paid for is that they will take the price out of your first booking. And it's really not that expensive. It's way cheaper than if you were to find a pro in your area and hire them directly. This is going to be the cheapest way, and it's going to be the most bang for your buck. The only downside is the photos are not yours to keep or use anywhere else other than Airbnb. In fact, you don't even get copies of these photos. They're just imported into your listing, and that's where they live and breathe and stay forever. So one downside, but still very much worth it. And number 11, you are going to subscribe to the Glamp Man's channel. That's me. I'm your host for the most here in the glamping world. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.